is truly grateful. In closing, I encourage you to continue to provide exemplary service, and in so doing, enable our noble institution to continue to create knowledge through excellence in teaching, research, innovation, public service, intellectual leadership, and outreach for the development of the Caribbean region. And I know sometimes it might not be easy. It's not always an easy road here. Sometimes you wonder, as administrators, if you've made the right choice. I can look, sometimes I walk across campus and I see people trying to solve problems, and you can see the doubt sometimes in their faces as they seek to perform their duties. And you wonder about your service to this institution. But all of us, certainly those of us in the executive management, truly appreciate the service that you've rendered to this institution. It may not always be reflected in things that are done or said, but in our quiet ways, I think we recognize that we cannot do without you. And for those of you who might have doubts about service, I would like to quote, we like to quote famous people, and I'll quote one, Gandhi. All of you know Gandhi. And he, when asked about service, he said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for losing yourself in the service of this institution. Thank you and enjoy your day.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Boxill. Thank you to the organizers, the admin officers, and all the other persons in putting together this event today. I think it's an excellent initiative. So why are we here today? We're here to celebrate all of you and recognize the work of all admin staff, whether you are secretary, admin assistant, receptionist, admin officer, whatever role you perform within this institution, to all the people who are professionals within the university and provide administrative support. You are central to this university. You are essential to keep this institution organized and efficient, and also dedicated to furthering its growth, because we are rooted and ready to rise, exactly. So what's the day in the life of an admin professional? I'm sure you're all thinking stress, right? Well, the other thing you could agree on, it's never boring, never dull. It's varied from moment to moment. You never know what's going to happen. And you all have to be flexible and have that ability to handle the unexpected, because you are all valuable to this institution. Just think about when COVID came, how quick you had to regroup and how efficiently and excellent you did it. So on a daily basis, no matter what your official designation is, you will find yourself multitasking, right? So you're going to be performing secretarial tasks, customer service, accounting, IT, scheduling, HR, marketing, event planning, office management, regardless of what your official role is. And also, even counseling, right? Counseling students, and even counseling academic staff. And what is more important, you have to do this while coping with all the different personalities, especially those of the academic staff, right? But you do it with great professionalism. And so today, no matter what level of work you are at, we recognize you for your hard work, whether you are working behind the scenes or directly in front. You're the ones who make sure things run smoothly for the entire university and support staff in any way you can. What is important too is that part of your role involves keeping academic staff and students satisfied and calm. So you have to remain calm no matter what the chaos is that is happening behind the scenes. What else? Sometimes because you are in the front line, you have to take the blame for even circumstances beyond your control. And so you are all the hard workers whose tough job is often overlooked. Well, I was going to tell you a little bit of the history of Admin Professionals Day, but Prof. Boxill did that. Thank you, Prof. But just to add that it wasn't until the 18th century, during the Industrial Revolution, when two thinkers, Robert Owen and Charles Babbage, realized how crucial it was to recognize individual workers and their role in the success of any entity. Because it was then, way back in the 18th century, that they realized that the well-being of each individual employee will lead to a perfect workplace. So you have to look at people as individuals and collectively. And that's part of why we celebrate Admin Professionals Day. So you heard Prof. Boxill. It was during World War II when there was a shortage of people in the skills of an admin professional following the World War, that in 1942, the National Secretaries Association was formed in the US. And since then, of course, it's spread around the world, the idea of recognizing the contributions of admin personnel to the economy to support its development and attract workers to this field. So first, National Administrative Professionals Day. First, it was National Secretaries Week, which was held in June. And then I think it was in 1955 when Secretaries Week was moved to this current period and renamed Administrative Professionals Week. And so in 1981, the name was changed to Professional Secretaries Week, but then in 2000, again, it became Administrative Professionals Week. And so it's there to recognize the wide range of responsibilities and job titles of admin staff within the modern economy. So here we are today celebrating you, administrative professionals. And why? Because firstly, you work hard, right? You work hard, you do a lot of day-to-day functions and responsibilities to create a cohesive and well-run office, faculty, university. 2, you improve the work environment. You know, you bring a bright and positive energy into your office, and you help to bring an otherwise chaotic work environment to order, right, Peter Gay? There you go. I'm not taking any credit for the chaos. And 3, you deserve more recognition. A lot of the hard work that you do goes unnoticed, but this is completely essential to functional work life, right? So we want to recognize you. So also, I want to give you a couple quotes, and mine are about teamwork, because this is a university, and yes, our essential function is about teaching, research, learning, but academics alone can't do it. So we have to work in tandem, in collaboration, not in silos, but collectively and collaboratively and cooperatively with our admin staff to help them to perform the functions that can advance teaching, research, and learning within our institution. So Helen Keller once said, "Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much." And that is why together we can help to make this institution not only be rooted, but ready to rise. So I like this quote. It says, "No one can whistle a symphony, Think about it. All the different instruments you need, right? Because it takes a whole orchestra to play it. So I'd like to think of all of us as different players, musicians within that orchestra to make that beautiful music that is the UWI. So everyone, big up yourselves, right? Give yourself a hand, take a bow, as we are rooted and ready to rise with the UWI. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. All protocols observed. A very warm welcome to all our administrators as you spend a brief period of time to observe Administrative Professionals Day. Thank you for this invitation to be a part of your gathering, which I'm sure will be enlightening, inspirational, and even rejuvenating for some. Sure. As you sit here this morning, I'm almost certain that some persons in this room are both very happy to be present and looking forward to the fellowship as well as the seminar, while in the back of your minds, you're thinking about something that needs to get done for some meeting that needs to be held. These are the persons who inspire us each day by making things seem so easy because of how well they administer their processes. You deserve our recognition, respect, and admiration. No doubt, there are persons who, when we think about all of us in this room, we can say categorically that we have confidence in their guidance, advice, organizational abilities, and skills in coordination. Leave it to Mr. X or Mrs. Y, and you know it will be done correctly, quickly, and seamlessly. The noble institution of the UWI would collapse without its structures, literally and figuratively. Our administrators ensure that the structures, systems, processes, and procedures are maintained by properly administering them. But not only that. The persons who we admire the most are those who anticipate others' needs and have a spirit and desire to serve. They have the best interest of all at heart, and they do their best at all times. They encourage and they support others, and even when they feel they're at their limits of their capacity, they still try and they find a way. A key part of administration is support. And it is that support that is demonstrated when our administrators ensure that documents are processed properly, when you have a colleague who is waiting to be appointed, when events are planned to a T so that you don't have delays and you don't have awkward pauses, when they're able to go into all of the records and archives and pull out the key decisions that are needed to guide a process and a decision that needs to be made. When they keep their units on schedule to meet all of the key deadlines in the academic calendar, when they provide solid advice and guidance in all of their various arenas, and when they follow through from start to end on all of the matters of importance. These are the things that you do as administrators every day that seem so seamless, but you do it and you keep the place running and you keep the structure upright. Your hard work and dedication are valued as much as you are valued as a person and a colleague. As good as you are, and as good as we are as individuals, you're even stronger as a team, and this is a common theme in the greetings. Even stronger as a team of administrators and as a collective body that supports its members. You support each other. And you keep your eyes on the upliftment of the university. We can't do it alone. Furthermore, as solid as our structures are, we cannot as an institution remain stagnant. So I salute the persons who look beyond what is now and look towards the new and innovative methods and approaches and mindsets that will keep us evolving slowly, but also make us leap forward bounds in terms of being on the cutting edge. So we must applaud those, especially who are innovative. We in HR also administer many, many processes, and I want to give a special shout out to the HR team. Go HR team, for today and all of the hard work that you do on a daily basis, day in, day out. As part of the campus strategic plan 2022-23, HR is leading the camp initiatives through the registry. One of our initiatives is to establish and implement an employee reward and recognition program for ATS employees. That's one of the initiatives on the books. Additionally, following through on the collective agreement with MonaMedia, HR has been giving increased attention to the temporary employment of persons, and we have been working on regularizing where appropriate. So that is also being done. Another camp initiative is where we have designed an initiative to be able to establish and implement an employee assistance program which will focus on mental health and wellness support. These are just some of the ways that HR wishes to support all of you and all of us on the campus and to help elevate the workforce. There are times when we feel the pressure more than others, and sometimes we feel like we need to have more support. But with everybody's support, optimism, wisdom, and positive attitude, there's nothing that we can't achieve together. So today, I want to salute all of us who are administrators, all of you who are the people who keep the structure running, those of you who are hardworking, committed, excellent, and trustworthy, and innovative. You're the pillars of the administrative services. And together, we will work to keep the institution great and make it even greater. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, again. Professor Boxill, Deputy Principal, Professor Ali, Chair, Committee of Deans, Dr. Marina Ramkisoon, Director, HR MD, Professor Michael Taylor, Dean, Faculty of Science and Tech, administrative professionals from my committee, and all administrative professionals, morning and welcome. My job today is to introduce to you our guest speaker. Dr. Caryl James Bateman is a clinical psychologist and eating disorder specialist in Jamaica. She's also a senior lecturer and associate dean for undergraduate studies and student experience in the Faculty of Social Sciences here at UWI-Mona. She's deeply committed to improving mental health in the Caribbean. Through her research and work with her patients, she has recognized that culture plays a significant role in the way patients seek and receive treatment. In the international community, Dr. James Bateman is known to actively share information on the Caribbean culture and its impact on the presentation and treatment of eating disorders. We here in the Faculty of Social Sciences find Dr. James Bateman to be a very calming and approachable person who leads with empathy. It is therefore my pleasure to introduce her to you and to present her as our guest speaker for today. Please welcome her.
Thank you, Kayan.
Is it on?
Okay, good morning, everyone. Sorry, just give me a second. I'm trying to get the presentation up. Okay. All right, so the title of today's presentation, Administrators Rooted, Ready, and Rising. Are you mentally rooted and ready to rise? Okay, so juicy, how many juices do we have? Just one. How many tasties? Ah, yes, finally. So I've done this test oftentimes that when we have visitors to the campus, I'll introduce them to juicy or tasty, and oftentimes they'll choose juicy. I'm not sure why. But just a disclaimer here, tasty is my favorite patty, and I'm not being paid by Tasty Patty to announce this, all right? So I just want to share a brief experience with Tasty Patty with you guys. So I'm gonna read an excerpt here. One Saturday morning, I jumped out of bed with excitement. I've been waiting for this moment, for midday to hit, as I had big plans for my tasty moment. The line at Sugar and Spice seemed to have stretched from Ligony all the way to Halfway Tree, but I was determined to get my tasty patty. Finally, I made it home as quickly as I could. I grabbed the bag with the patty, laid it on my table, and eagerly tore it open. I could hear the ripping of the paper. I wanted to make sure that there was scallion on the inside and opened the patty to see. Steam sizzled out. The oily juices from the beef oozed. I took a deep breath and inhaled the aroma. The smell of seasoned beef, along with the buttery crust, filled my nostrils. I closed it back as quickly as I could. I didn't want the hot air to escape. I took up the patty. I could feel the heat penetrating my fingertips. My mouth watered. I leaned forward, closed my eyes, and I took one bite. The crust touched my teeth. I heard the crunch. I sank my teeth in a little more. By now, I could taste the hot beef. Yikes. Hot patty, hot patty. Don't know if you guys used to play that in high school. Despite the heat, it was tasty and well seasoned. I wanted this moment to last forever. But alas, I only had one patty. Should I go back for more? My thoughts were soon interrupted by the sounds of laughter. My neighbor was on the outside playing with her child. What's the point of this? I'm sure that you guys are thinking, you're not here to learn about a patty experience. What's the point of this? Can't buy one patty. Enjoy the moment. So how many of you were in the moment with me? Like, seeing the patty, tasting, with what? Juicy? You were at juicy. Yes. Being in the moment, tasting the patty, seeing the sizzling oil, like allowing it to fill your nostrils. What we just did is that we did a grounding exercise. So we were present with the patty. I mean, it was in the past, yes, but when I brought it to the present moment, you were able to use some senses to kind of connect with that experience. So if we start out going back to the example that I shared, I'm sure that you can identify with the taste, providing that you eat patties. You can identify with tasting the food. You can identify with smelling, with hearing, with feeling, the touch, and with seeing. So I have a video here. It's not going to play. We were trying to play them. Let me try if by chance. No. We were trying to play them, but I wouldn't be a true psychologist if I couldn't apply some flexibility and apply some of my own words. So I do have several videos, but they're not going to play today, but I'll just describe them to you. So what I'd like for you to do is to get into the zone. I don't know if you've observed athletes, so this one is one of my favorite athletes, Bolt. When he did his race, and notice that he came out on the scene, if you can remember that video, and he started by telling the crowd to shh. You remember that video? And so that meant silence for him. He had to block out all of the distractions, put it on the outside so that he can focus on his race. What I'm asking you to do today is to block out all of the thoughts about work that you have to do, maybe lunch that you're setting up, maybe picking up the kids, maybe a timeline that you've missed. I want for you to block it out and get into the zone and be present with me just for a couple of minutes. I'm allotted 1 hour, right? So I'm gonna stick to my time. Okay, so what do you need for this workshop? Whenever it is that I go into a situation, I need to understand what is required of me. So for this workshop, make it your intention to make full use of this opportunity. So you're interacting with someone who has been in the field, who has information on, mental health, the tools that you need to put in place in order to help yourselves along. And this advice is free. Not charging you guys. So it's important to make use of this opportunity and the information that you've been provided with. Being open. So being open means being present with the information, making space, making room for the information that I'm about to give you. Think about your personal examples, your experiences, etc., so that you can connect with the information. The next thing is the undivided attention, which I spoke about before, in terms of being present, to focus on the information and to take in as much as you can. I do understand that from time to time, the mind will go back in the past with thoughts, or back in the future, or to the future. So I know that we have that way of thinking. For the most part, we're in and out in our minds. So the objectives for today: gonna harness your personal goals, serve and lead with empathy, and prioritize self-care. It's not gonna be linear, and most of the techniques that I'll talk about today, they actually interconnect, so they're not separated as much. But let's see as we go along how you can apply this information. So I don't know if we have any note takers here, but I'll talk a little bit in terms of information, where the brain is concerned, where thoughts and feelings are concerned. So kind of like a mini lecture, but it's not too bad. And then I'll do a lot of experiential, so where you can use your personal experiences, or experiences that I would have had on the screen, as well as my personal experiences. So, my intention, so the organizers have their objectives that they've given me, but my intention is that the minute that you walk through that door and you interact or you engage in this presentation, that somehow the mindset that you came in with would have been altered as a result of us interacting and talking about mental health. So my journey. So I can't say to you that I started out wanting to be a psychologist. In fact, when I was in sixth form, I decided to do a lot of work, research on becoming a lawyer. I wanted to become a lawyer, largely because it seems at the time very prestigious, and I just wanted for people to call me a lawyer. Teenagers, wanting to be recognized, etc. But I realized on the day when I was applying for law school that there was a disconnect there, and I wasn't happy. and I couldn't really see myself as a lawyer anymore. The brightest girl in sixth form, maybe the brightest girl I've ever met in my life, came up to me and she said to me, "Caryl, what's wrong?" So I told her, not interested in law anymore and I don't know what to do. She said to me, "Maybe you should choose psychology. You remind me of Sigmund Freud." First of all, didn't know what psychology was, but I didn't want to admit that to her. And second of all, didn't know who Sigmund Freud was. Didn't want to admit that to her, but I decided, decided to pursue psychology. And since then, it was no turning back. So that was my journey in a nutshell. So let's journey with some uncooked spaghetti. See this contour that I'm showing you, where we have the road that's windy here? I want for you to visualize using the spaghetti to match the contour of this road. What do you think will happen? It's gonna break, right? It's not flexible, right? Yeah. Oftentimes when we meet life's challenges and we are not flexible and we're not able to bend with adversities, then what will happen is that we will break. So we need mental flexibility. Hence the reason why we're gonna have better luck with cooked spaghetti. But I want for you to think about the process of cooked spaghetti. What is the process? Heat. So you have to boil the water, and then we have to put the spaghetti in the boiling water, and then it gets soft and tender, and it can go through the journey, right? It's very similar to what we experience in life, because all of the challenges that you would have faced would have resulted in you building your character, right? So we're all in here as cooked spaghettis. I'm assuming that we're all resilient in here. And the fact that you're administrators and you have to go through quite a bit, I'm imagining that you're cooked spaghettis. All right, ignore this, the road to recovery. I just wanted a visual map, unless you're recovering. I just wanted a visual map of our journey towards specific goals, and how it is that oftentimes we have a set plan, but we don't realize that the reality is that we have setbacks. We have the potholes, we have the ditches, we have a lot that we have to go through in order to meet our goals. So this is really the reality of the situation. So sometimes we have to work on adjusting our expectations as we go along. So, administrative staffs, I've looked at the criteria, like what makes a good administrative staff. And you have communication skills, interpersonal skills, problem-solving skills, punctuality, critical thinking, teamwork, adaptability, work ethic. It goes on. So I imagine that it's exhausting and you have quite a bit that you have to do, right? So I'm anticipating maybe some of these symptoms. So how many of you find yourselves feeling overwhelmed? Okay, at times, yeah, a few of you. How about feeling depleted? Okay. How about feeling irritable? All right. How about having trouble falling asleep? Notice no hands went up. All right. How about checking out? So you're not there mentally. Okay. All right, so these are common signs of burnout. It's when we're juggling several roles and we're not taking care of ourselves. Whenever it is that we move towards this these maladaptive coping tools. So we're not dealing with the situation. We're finding distractions. We are engaging in substance use. We have disengaged. We tend to vent a lot without any solution. We tend to blame ourselves, be hard on ourselves. We don't want to be in this category, though we experience it at times. We want to move towards this. So more adaptive ways of coping. And I'll talk a little bit more about this. So let's get into the foundation, the basics. We're going to understand how to manage our brains today, how to understand and manage our brains. But we have to start out with becoming aware. So, if you notice a quote here from Stephen Covey, in our personal lives, if we do not develop our own self-awareness and become responsible for first creations, we empower other people and circumstances to shape our lives by default. Imagining that maybe that speaks to you. So, this was supposed to play, was supposed to be a clip from the Titanic where they saw the iceberg, but it's not going to play today, so moving on. All right, so in psychology, when we talk about awareness, we use the iceberg as a way of understanding the mind, so the metaphor for the mind. If you guys have seen the Titanic, you would have seen that initially, you would have seen a little bit at the top, the tip of the iceberg, but them not realizing how big the iceberg is and how deep it is. So we use this in terms of levels of consciousness. So at the tip of the iceberg, it's your consciousness. It's what you are aware of currently. So currently, you are aware of, providing you're fully present. Currently, you're aware of my voice, you're aware of the pictures on the screen, you're aware of the temperature in the room. So this is your level of consciousness. Just beneath that, like the shallow part, you'll be able to see a little bit more of the iceberg, and this is called the pre-conscious level. It's where we store information that we don't need right now, but we can easily access it. So if I were to ask you for your cell number, you can easily bring it to your conscious level. If I were to ask you for your home address, you could easily move it from your pre-conscious to your conscious level. But notice the bigger part right here. And this is the unconscious level. And here, it drives our actions. So any wishes, any desires, any events that took place in the past, these would have been stored in the unconscious mind. In psychology, what we do is that we do a lot of work to become aware of what's hidden here and bring it to the conscious mind so we're able to operate in a way that is in keeping with our authentic self. So, if we become more aware, then we're able to make changes. It's very important to become aware of our thoughts and feelings and the function of our thoughts and feelings. Otherwise, they can hold us hostage. So, what are thoughts? I'm putting it out there to you guys. What are thoughts? How would you define thoughts? Your inner voice in your head, okay. Anybody else? All right, so thoughts can be inner voice, your cognition, your perception, your subjective experience, anything that has to do with cognitive processes. And oftentimes when I'll ask my patients to talk about their thoughts, they're not able to identify it as much, but they're able to identify their feelings. All right, so what are feelings? Your emotional responses to these thoughts, okay? Anything else? So our feelings tell us about our experience. So right now, I'm observing where you guys are maybe taking in the information, maybe not, maybe trying to track along to see where we're gonna go with this. Maybe some of you seem confused, maybe some of you seem very engaged. So I'm picking up on the feelings as we go along. You're telling me about your experience right now. How do they work together? Thoughts and feelings. So Debbie mentioned the emotional response to the thoughts. How do they work together? Do you guys know? Thoughts influence your feelings. Very good. So if you go back to this picture here, and if we chose one of these thoughts, if I only had, what feelings do you think will come as a result of these thoughts? Regret, yeah. Maybe some anxiety, maybe some sadness, yeah. All right, so they work in terms of the ABC model. Oftentimes we're in a situation, and the situation can result in a particular reaction. So A is an activating event, and C has to do with the consequences. The activating event can be something in the external environment, or it can be something you're thinking of, a memory that you have, or a mental picture that you have. We try to work with this right here, the belief system, because what is causing us to react a particular way has to do with our beliefs. And our beliefs can be rational or irrational. We get into trouble oftentimes when it becomes irrational, or when we entertain the irrational thoughts. And I wanted to play this clip for us to apply it to Oliver, but it's not going to work today. So I'd recommend when you guys get some time as a way for self-care and to de-stress, to watch some Oliver clips and get a bit of laugh and lightness. So that you'll have space to carry on with the day. But I'd like for us to maybe apply it to some personal examples or experiences, if anyone would like to share. So you can tell us a scenario, and we'll go back to the ABC model. What? Oh, yeah, the video. I don't have the video, but really he went to the hotel and he misperceived the intention of the bellman, and he got upset, thought the bellman was stealing his luggage, and reacted negatively. But I was asking about like your personal experience in terms of where you've been emotionally charged in a situation, so what the situation was, and you becoming emotionally charged, and what were your beliefs at the time? So anybody would like to give an example? That's a perfect example. What's your name? Camille. So let's use Camille's example and plug it into this equation, the ABC model. So what was the activating event here? So going into the office and seeing the guy and him observing her. Yeah. And what about her reaction? She was annoyed. And this was because she had the thoughts that he was checking her out, All right. And the reality of the situation was different from what she believed. But oftentimes we tend to do this because our brains don't have enough time to process every single detail, to take the time out to slow things down, to be able to make a judgment call that allows us to be in a better place as opposed to being frustrated. So we can all identify with you, Camille. So, you've been given a choice to stay in a standard room or a penthouse. Standard or a penthouse? Penthouse, all right. So, we're gonna apply this to our emotional state. So there are times when we're in a situation and our animal instinct tends to click in. And when we do that, we're at the very base. So it's kind of similar to when Camille was reactive in that situation, so that she would have been frustrated or annoyed. So that's the baseline. So whenever it is that we're in a situation, we need to take inventory. We need to do a mental check to see, or emotional check, to see where we are emotionally. Right above that is a basement level. So it's not as animalistic or as primitive as we would have if we're just reacting in the situation, but it's still closer to the animal instinct. So it may result in us becoming, reacting out of character. So here we can become, negative with negative thoughts. We can create a negative environment. We can bring the negativity in the environment, etc. Above this, we have above ground floor. So here we have the positive side, the more joyful side, the good feeling side, the good vibe side, the happy side, the cooperative side. And yes, we want to be here, but we really want to get to the penthouse. So here, we want to see our purpose. We want to see what motivates us. We want to look at creativity. We want to see how we can contribute and how we can develop good relationship with others. So whenever you're in a situation, I know instinctively or automatically we may think we're being emotional in this situation, but I'm hoping that this information would have gone into your conscious mind and you're storing it somewhere. I want for you to think about what level you are and whether or not you should react in that situation. So giving yourself some time so that you can get to the penthouse level. All right, so I have two pictures here. I have the ocean that's tame, or calm, sorry, it's calm, not tame. And the ocean here where the waves are huge. There are times when we don't deal with our emotions in the proper way, and as a result, it may cause us to become overwhelmed and for us to explode. We want to get to a place where we observe the ups and downs and we're not as reactive. It's kind of similar to going back to the penthouse. So I remember when I was studying for my exams and my little cousins, they were on the outside, they were making a lot of noise. And I remember going out there and telling them to be quiet. I mean, they're playing. I remember my grandma telling me at the time that if you learn to tame the waves of the ocean, then you can tame the spirit of a child. And I remember thinking, that's very interesting. So it's very similar to how we deal with emotions. There are times when we'll have emotions that are elated, emotions that are pleasant, but also some other emotions that aren't as pleasant, but they each serve a purpose. If we don't understand this, and if we don't manage our emotions well, then what's going to happen is that we're going to hold on to our emotions, we're going to carry our feelings, we're going to be in our feelings. And we don't want that to happen, right? All right, so the solution when it comes to our emotions is to release them. This is a clip from Madagascar. Don't know if you've ever seen King Julian, where he dances to I Like to Move It, right. So that was what was supposed to play. So how to manage emotions? I find that there are times when if we understand the emotions then and what each of them represent, then we'll be able to manage our emotions in a better way. So, my 3-year-old nephew, he's sitting on the couch, in the past now, sitting on the couch. He's pouting, arms folded. I go to him and I ask him, Caden, what's wrong? He gets up, stamps his feet, and he's like, I'm angry. The 3-year-old does a good expression of his emotions. How many of us do that? How many of us, I mean, not stamping your feet. I wouldn't expect that in the work environment or at home, but how many of you identify your emotions, label them, and allow yourselves to release them? Yeah? Okay, good, good. How many of you are aware of what each emotion represents? Because sometimes that will allow you to give yourselves permission or give room to the emotions. Yeah? Okay. So, how many of you know what sadness means? Sadness. What does that mean? You know? You feel it, we can all identify with it, but what does it mean? How can you give sadness permission to be if you don't know what it means? So if I take away your cellular phone, and if I say to you, you are not allowed to cry, let's say the cellular phone means a lot to you. And if I say to you, you're not allowed to cry, how would that make you feel? Angry, upset. All right, if I say to you, you're not allowed to be upset, you'd still, well, we're taking that away. Frustrated, if I take that away as well. Take away the frustration and the upset. All right, the point that I'm making is that sadness represents a loss. So whenever it is that we lose something that's meaningful to us, could be ourselves, could be our character, could be a loved one, it could be a possession, you're going to experience sadness, and that is okay because it represents a loss. How many of you know what guilt represents? Guilt. Should have done, could have done, regret. All right, so guilt tells us that we've done something that's wrong. Yeah. So that will help us in terms of how we treat others. All right, so if we're upset and we take it out on our partners or co-workers, then we may feel a bit of guilt because that really wasn't their fault. So we realize that we've done something that's wrong. How about shame? You feel embarrassed, but what else? Shame is a big one that we don't really talk about. That is the one where you want to feel as if you want to hide because you think that something is wrong with you. All right, how about anger? So you guys mentioned anger as a response to me taking away the valuable possession. How about anger? All right, so anger represents putting in the boundaries. You feel like you're wrong, but it's putting in the boundaries. All right, so it's where we say no. It's where we reclaim control of the situation. All right, so those are some examples of what the emotions represent, and they can help you when you're in a situation, and if it's a case that you're checking to see, well, this is an anxious lizard, so it's a primitive instinct. Oh, tell me about anxiety. What does that mean? the sight of the lizard or the imagined lizard. Right. Right, so the danger of the situation. So usually anxiety, that has to do with thoughts that we've conjured up in our minds. So we tend to think these thoughts, believe these thoughts, and then become reactive to these thoughts. So, and we associate it with the primitive mind. So here, if we're to process our emotions, the next time around, because you have an idea of what each represents, you can start with identifying. What am I feeling? What happened that made me feel this way? So you're processing now in terms of thoughts. Is this a dangerous situation? So you're checking, is a lizard actually gonna bite you? Has a lizard ever bitten you? Is the lizard gonna, I don't know, the negative thoughts that we have towards a lizard. And what can I do to calm down? Maybe you can pet the lizard. I'm kidding. But or kill him. But that's not gonna get rid of your anxiety. That's just gonna reinforce the anxiety. All right. So we want to have more of these experiences. This is supposed to be the calming waves that playing in the background for you guys to experience, but it's not playing, so we're moving on. And if you forget anything today, I want for you to remember when it comes to your emotions, remember RAIN, the acronym RAIN. So Tara Brash developed this acronym. She's a psychologist, so it's just recognizing what is happening. And it's allowing, so making space for the emotions or thoughts that tend to come up. It's to be curious. Why am I feeling this way? Or why am I having these thoughts? Or what am I doing with these thoughts? And it's to be kind to yourselves. So our thoughts can bring weight. So we've seen the example that Camille has given. I don't know if anyone else would like to give other examples. Another example of thoughts. Thoughts being disruptive or thoughts being stressful. So if you imagine, so if you think about thoughts as, let's say your fingers, right? So these are your thoughts. And if you imagine, so what you're seeing in the room right now, you're seeing the, well, you're not facing this way. So you're seeing the screen, you're seeing the presenter. If you were to put your fingers, like do it. Put your fingers right here. What can you see? Your fingers, right? That is how thoughts tend to operate. That's what we call fusion. So it's when we believe our thoughts, because the brain doesn't know that these are thoughts. These are, unless you train it to. These are irrational. These can be problematic. These can be unhelpful. But it's just how the brain is. We take our fingers, we put them down, we put them aside, we're able to get clarity. So, the type of thoughts that we entertain can tell us about our experience. So whether you think you can or cannot, either way you're right. It's a thought that you're entertaining. So let's diffuse. So you've done this. Let's see if we can get the thoughts down. So I want for you to imagine, think about a negative thought that you have that you tend to engage with on a daily basis or tend to be very consistent in your mind that is problematic. Think about that thought. And I want for you to hold that thought there and how that thought affects you. So in this example, we have, I'm stupid. All right? Don't know if anyone identifies with that. So think about the thought that I've just asked for you to identify. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I want for you to think about how intense you feel towards these thoughts. How much are you believing these thoughts? 1 to 10. Done so? Okay. Then I'd like for you to imagine or say to yourselves, I'm having a thought that, whatever that thought is that you've brought to your conscious level, I want for you to identify that thought. I'm having a thought that, in this example, I'm stupid. Now, the separation or the distance, the fact that we're able to identify our thoughts, help us to create distance so that we can focus on other things, so that we can observe them, so that they don't become a threat to us, so that they don't take us over. So that's where diffusion takes place. All right, so we're going to go a little bit deeper, more towards the authentic self. And I want for you to do your own self-assessment. So here we have some questions just for you to think about as to where you are and whether or not this is problematic in your lives. Are your roles enhancing your life? Yes or no? Don't know if you guys wish to share. Are you alive to your senses and your body? Can you be spontaneous and playful? Do you listen to your feelings? Are your relationships alive? Are you alive intellectually and spiritually? Are you satisfied with the way you handle life's challenges? Do you like the person you are today? So these are some questions that I'm posing at you. And I think it's important for you to realize that you can choose. You can choose the direction that you're going. And if you choose not to choose, you're still choosing. All right, so our choices can be effective or ineffective. They can either be helpful or unhelpful. What we need to realize is what we have control over. So move more in terms of internal locus of control and less so in terms of putting it out there to say it's others' fault and they're the ones doing this. So we can make changes by modifying our actions. If we modify our actions, so if you have a goal that you're working towards and you make changes to your actions as opposed to your feelings, waiting on your feelings to change your actions, then you can be more effective. So let's say for those of you who would like to go to the gym more consistently or do physical activity more consistently, how many of you in this room would like to do that? Okay, how many of you are actually doing that? All right, good. But to get there, is it easy? Is it easy for you to do the physical activity? It's not. And how many of you wait until you feel like it in order to get there? If we wait on feelings, we're never going to get there. But if we take one step at a time to say, okay, I'm going to try for 10 minutes today, I'm going to try for 15 minutes the following day, and we do it more in terms of actions, then we can definitely get some improvement. Another thing to focus on is the here and the now. We are not negating the fact that there are past experiences that really would have impacted who we are, but we're responsible for choosing today. So notice I mentioned responsibility. So we're quite capable of making changes and taking responsibility and taking control of what we do today. All right, so we don't engage in behaviors unless they're giving us something. So even the avoidance, even what we go through on a daily basis of a consistent pattern, we're getting some amount of reward, even if it's not meeting our goals. So when we look at the total behavior, we need to look at what we're doing, what we're thinking, as these are going to influence our feelings and our physiology. So, example of total behavior. So here's an example of a child who is afraid of, it's supposed to be height. And this child experiences anxiety. So with the anxiety, notice the thoughts that the child is experiencing. Something bad is going to happen. I can't handle this. I'm scared to death. Notice the feelings that tend to come up, and notice the physiology, and notice a child's withdrawal. But we can change that. So we can change our way of thinking, we can change our actions, and then that will translate to our feelings and the sensations that we feel in our bodies. There are times when I will think about like being exhausted, not wanting to go to work, overdoing it, juggling way too many roles. The thing that gets me out of bed are my values. So if I think back to the type of psychologist I'd like to be, the type of lecturer I'd like to be, the type of even administrator that I'd like to be, and what is important to me, I have to focus on my values. How many of you are clear on your values? Like you have a personal philosophy that you go by. And if you don't have one, I would encourage you to find one, because it's very helpful during the times when you have challenges, get going. So it's important to know where you stand. So I'm about to give you a gift. It's also a gift for me. It's not money. Can you guess what this is? You have to be open to it, though. All right, I'm gonna, It's what? It's new mindset. Close enough. All right, I'm gonna give you some tips. So it adds to your life if you're open to it. By itself, it won't pay your JPS bill or give you a salary. It is limitless. It can make you the richest person on this earth. That is going to be my gift to you. What is it? Health? Could be mental health. All right, so self-care. Okay, close enough, but not entirely. I'm going to give you strokes. But not this type of strokes. I'm going to give you recognition and acknowledgement. That is what we call strokes in transaction analysis. And this is important because it helps us to feel better. It helps us to trust others. It helps us to feel like, I'm human, and I'm being acknowledged here, and I'm validated here. So, oftentimes when we go out and someone says to us, and this is mainly for the females, I don't know if the males experience this, but someone says, "Oh, you look so nice." And the reaction is, "Oh, this old thing." You're rejecting the strokes. Cats have no problem getting the strokes, right? So why shouldn't we? So don't be alarmed if, by me giving you strokes, that it causes some amount of discomfort. That is okay, because we're not accustomed to taking in and being open to the positives. But let's do that today. So I am grateful. I appreciate you. I've been to talks where we only have one person in the room, where, we go online and we put on these presentations and we see the room and we have maybe 10, maybe 12. And then you're thinking, oh, well, no one wants to show up. I'm grateful for you. Even if one of you showed up today, I'm grateful for you and the role that you play in the university, because I know that it has a ripple effect. Whatever it is that you're doing, it's also contributing to my own development. I'm grateful for you going above and beyond, because I know that it's not easy. And in strokes, what we do is we make room for it. We say, pause, take it in. We open up a space here. So I'm hoping that that's what you're doing. You're taking it in. You're making space for it. for your perseverance, because I know it's not easy, especially in these challenging moments. For holding our hands one step at a time while the place popped down, right? For making an impact. This is supposed to, it's supposed to add a bit of humor there. But as I'm pouring in, or as I'm mentioning the gratitude, I'm also feeling it because it is positive and I'm feeling the sensation. And I hope that you guys are feeling it as well and you can transfer it to your colleagues, to people at home. So if you're short of gratitude ideas, here's a list. You can be grateful for even that tasty patty, or juicy, if you prefer. But you can be grateful for being here, for being alive, for being able to see, for being able to hear, for being able to feel the chair beneath your body. So, some examples of how we can express gratitude. One of the things that I want to mention is that change is not easy. We know this. I was going to do an activity, but given the level of energy, I'm thinking to skip it. But I just wanted to introduce to you guys that when you think about rabbits, if we're to present carrots to the rabbit, what do you think will happen? They'll what? They'll go after it. So they'll move towards it. If we're to put a fox in the room with the rabbit, what do you think the rabbit will do? Run away from it, all right? As human beings, we're pretty similar to the rabbit. The only good thing is that we're more sophisticated in our thinking. So we have thoughts. We don't need to have a fox in the environment or carrots in front of us, i.e. the goals. We can visualize it. We can think about it. But we tend to move towards what is pleasurable, and whatever it is that causes us any stress or any pain, we tend to avoid it. So the activity that I was going to do is just, and maybe at some point, maybe at another workshop, because you'd need paper and pen, it's to just identify the goal that you're interested in achieving, and then I would go through the things that are preventing you from accomplishing that goal, and for you to set actions in order to meet those goals. So what I like to introduce, and this was developed by Russ Harris, there's another psychologist as well. So whenever it is that we're starting out and we're making changes, we start in the comfort zone. It is what we are accustomed to. When we start to make changes, it starts to feel uncomfortable for us. It's new, it's different. Just because it's new and different doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but we get into the fear zone. And oftentimes when we get into the fear zone and we feel that discomfort, we are tempted to get back to the comfort zone. I want for you to practice being here in the fear zone and tolerating the discomfort. Because if you are able to do that, then you realize that you can do it, and it becomes a learning experience for you, and it helps you to develop your confidence. And if you stay a little bit longer in the learning zone, what you'll find is that you become inspired, and you move towards the growth zone. So my advice for you is, if you're working on that goal, that specific goal, start out here. Take one step at a time. The 15 minutes or the 10 minutes of workout, yes, you're going to feel uncomfortable, but as you continue, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, you'll get to a new comfort zone. And so we have to look for opportunities. For me, I'm looking for opportunities. Maybe for another workshop, maybe we need to have papers and worksheets and put you guys in groups, because somehow I'm feeling some distance between me and you guys. So what is the lesson here? So I'm adjusting my focus and what I'm observing. So that could have been, defeat, I'm not sure if they're really getting it, but I'm not taking those thoughts on. I'm diffusing, I'm separating myself from it. So when we're in a situation, adjust the focus. What is the lesson that we can learn here? Another thing also that I tend to practice on a daily basis is that my profession is a part of my lifestyle. And when I practice it as part of my lifestyle, it becomes my habit. It becomes a part of my being. I would encourage you guys to do the same. As Aristotle mentioned, quality is not an act, it's a habit. It's what you create on a daily basis. Like for the managers, or when you're managing, to think about this in terms of management. Management is doing things right, and leadership is doing the right things. I want for you to think about this. Even if you are flipping fries at McDonald's, if you are excellent, everybody wants to be in your line. So, think about the legacy that you'd like to leave behind. I know that you have a lot on your plate, but if you go back to your philosophy, if you go back to the impact that you'd like to make and just being clear on that, and go back to the legacy itself, which is very, very important. Like when you leave this earth, what would you like, what impact would you have liked to have made on people around you? And be able to have that legacy there so that it can be passed on by others, to others. So, Maya Angelou, if you're going to leave a legacy, make a mark on the world that can't be erased. And while you're out there being superheroes, give yourselves a break. Nurture your relationships because you will need the support. This video was supposed to play the nobody can cross it. I wanted you to have that visual. And it's also important to maintain boundaries. When you think about boundaries, think about access. So who are you giving access to? Your emotional space or your financial space or your work environment or your downtime. Think about if this person is responsible. So if you have a boss who is calling you after midnight or after 9 or after 11 and you allow it, what are the consequences? So think about access, responsibility, consequences. If you can remember those, then you'll know what you need for your physical boundaries, your moral, your emotional, and your financial boundaries. And that's it. Thank you, guys. Oh, sorry. It's access, responsibility, and consequences. Oh, the rain? Oh, I covered quite a bit today.
I want to write them down, thanks.
Any other? Does anybody have any other questions? We'll be taking questions at this time. Just raise your hand and I'll come with the mic so that others online can hear.
Hi.
Hi.
All right. So my question is, earlier you were saying it's good to be expressive of whatever feelings you're feeling and so on, but oftentimes you're not necessarily in a space to really release or express those.
Mm-hmm.
So when the environment isn't suitable, what suggestions
Okay.
you have?
So make a mental note. If you can step out and find a safe space for yourself, so whether it means going to the bathroom or whether it just means closing your eyes and visually identifying those emotions or even writing it down, like journaling it or texting it on your phone. And then later on, when you're able to find that safe space to go and process it, it could be you journaling, or it could be you talking to a friend. It could be you talking to yourself just to be able to validate that and get it out.
All right, thank you. I can imagine when we call the bursary and we're not getting our payments made, right? How we feel. Mm-hmm. And you heard some of the tips as to what we can do.
Hi.
Hi.
So I wanted to add to the question that she just asked, and I think you basically answered the question correctly, what I was thinking, because I believe that if we accept the feelings that we have, it's really on a personal base, where you know that you're angry or you're upset with something, but not necessarily to project that on the individual, but for yourself, your personal self, to know the feeling that you're having and how you can relate to actually, resolving the issue without coming off in a particular way. But what I wanted to ask, do you believe that feelings really based on the individual themselves? So you mentioned sadness and anger. Like if someone should take away a cell phone from you, you may feel sad. But in some situations, someone may feel sad about that situation. Another person may feel angry because that loss is not as great as the loss for the individual. So I think feeling really depends basically on the individual and how they react, and also culture and what they're exposed to.
Yeah, so notice that the definition of feelings is your experience of the situation. So yes, you are correct with that.
All right, Dr. Bateman, is there somewhere we can find what these feelings mean? Because when you were asking what does sadness mean, I was thinking, I've never thought of that. And then in sharing what it really means, I could realize that if you understand what it means, you can easily find a way to not feel that way or to deal with the feeling. So is there somewhere you would recommend that we can go, like a website or something, to find this information?
Yes, I can. Let me go to my sources, but if you Google it, you can get information on the definition of feelings. There is an author, she has done a lot of work on feelings. I'm trying to remember her name, Shakti Gawain. She has a lot of information on that. So she breaks it down for each of the emotion and what they represent. But if you Google it, it's generally the same definition that's there. But Shakti Gawain.
Okay, thank you. So we will be looking that up. Any other questions? I know a lot has been shared, and I'm certainly enlightened. So everything is crystal clear, and when we go back to our offices, we'll know how to isolate the thoughts and how to go through the heat so we can twist into the paths and all of those things. Okay, wonderful. Any questions from online? No questions. Okay, wonderful. So I'll now invite, we have a question by the person who was first today, by the way.
Thank you. They're growing up. Some generations have been, what would you say, taught as children to keep quiet about your emotions, your feelings, and you suppress it as children. Teens, when you're going through puberty, you suppress it again. And we've developed into adults who are still suppressing some of these emotions. And this is probably why we've been having the difficulty in answering your question and identifying and actually, trying to express what these emotions are. Is there, as you said, something online? Do you have a tool that could probably assist us in not only identifying, but manage, and as you said, move from one level to the next emotionally, and also it filters over into the workforce where we really don't communicate what we're feeling. We suppress our true emotions because we feel that it's not appropriate. It wasn't appropriate as a child to express it to an adult. It wasn't appropriate for you to express it in class. And some of us still feel it's not appropriate to express it in the workforce. So is there a tool or an activity or something that can assist us in not only identifying it, coming to terms with it, and actually expressing ourselves while still remaining professionals?
Yeah, it goes back to, thank you for that question, by the way, and that makes complete sense, especially in our culture and the messages that we've gotten. This is where the unconscious comes in. So we recognize that childhood events or experiences would have had an impact on our character and how we communicate and how we engage with individuals. So the one thing is it has to do with awareness, but the other thing is also to document your own personal journey about what took place in childhood, and being able to really take a step back, maybe put yourself in another person's position. So become the adult and speak to the child. So we do a lot of inner child work in therapy as well. So become the adult because you have different perspective now, and acknowledge that inner child that's within, because oftentimes we become emotionally stuck because we don't know how much of an impact the past is having on us. So we need to unearth that. We need to bring it to the conscious level. And I don't know, maybe it's something that the administrators can maybe set up another session where we just do a lot of activities, because as I'm interacting and giving the talk, I was thinking, I'd like more engagement, like what's going on here? But if I'm able to work with you guys on creating a timeline of your childhood experiences, I think that works pretty well, especially with my clientele, just reflecting on the past, the emotions and the thoughts associated with it, unpacking it, and then being able to grieve about it and release it. In a nutshell, I'm sorry, I wish we had more time so we could go through an activity like that, but in a nutshell, that is how we would approach it. You're welcome.
Dr. Bateman, you spoke about establishing boundaries, but how would you advise one where you're not able to clearly define and establish and maintain those boundaries? The persons that your family, your work environment, the people that you engage with on a day-to-day basis, they do not respect or allow you to enforce those boundaries. How do you go beyond for your betterment?
Mm-hmm. Good question. So you are in charge of what you do, not how others respond. So if it's a case that, let's go back to the penthouse. If it's a case that you're at the penthouse level and you know that you're not being reactive, and you're saying, let's just say for argument's sake, you're saying to your boss, okay, this is past work time hours, so let's discuss that tomorrow. You are going to feel uncomfortable putting in those boundaries. It's not easy, but if you maintain those boundaries, what you're doing is that you're training your boss to know that that is not appropriate. However it is that your boss reacts, that is on your boss. You're being a good employee in the sense that you are taking care of yourself, because you don't want to get in the position where you're resenting your boss or that family member. So once you're at penthouse level, indicate what the boundaries are. Stay firm with it. Recognize that you're going to feel uncomfortable on the inside, but that is okay. You're supposed to feel like you're doing something that's wrong. This is when we welcome guilt, because you're doing things differently. And allow it to pass, and then you continue to keep those boundaries going until it becomes comfortable.
I just wanted to for you to clarify the how in terms of you referred to when we are able to identify our feelings, we should make space for them and let them be. Now, some persons, based on their level of emotional awareness and where they're at, they interpret that as, if I'm upset with you, then I just tell you what I feel like and what come to my mouth. But I don't think that's what I know that's not what you mean, but that's how some persons may interpret it. And even with the things that we are to do for self-care in terms of what you'll say to your boss in order to train them to respect your boundaries, which will feel uncomfortable for you, it doesn't mean that you're going to tell your boss, say, I know when you call me after 9. I think the whole is important too. Like, I'm not going to talk to my boss like that. I'm going to say, okay, Prof, I understand. I'll deal with it in the morning, right? And if you continue conversation after that, then it's a whole. Mm-hmm. But I don't think some persons understand that how we do things also is a part of the being. It's not just what you feel like. You feel your feelings, but you don't, because I'm upset with you, I just tell you what I feel like, how I feel like telling you. I think about what it is that if you have done something to anger me, then I think about what it is that Caryl did to upset me. And then I say, okay, what is it that I want to accomplish here? I need to let her know that how she did it was not right, it was offensive, and communicate that, not just be upset and cut her off. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important for us to understand the how is important as well. Mm-hmm. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, that is a good point. That is where you also go back to your values in terms of the type of person that you'd like to be. So we have the penthouse. So if you're emotionally charged, don't respond when you're emotionally charged. So wait until you get to the penthouse where you're calm, where you're clear in terms of your values and what it is that you'd like to accomplish, the type of worker you'd like to be, or the type of colleague you'd like to be. And then in that moment, you can talk to your coworker about how you're feeling or your thoughts about the situation.
All right, just a minute so the persons online can hear the question, please.
If you are emotionally charged and you're gonna wait until you calm down, is because sometimes something happens and yes, you are upset, but it's something that you have to deal with. You have to deal with immediately. But yes, you're upset and it's not a good time to do it, to respond. How do you deal with it? Because after you calm down, mm-hmm. you maybe can't go back to the person, So how do you deal with it? Because you have to deal with it now. And if you don't respond, because I'm the type of person, when I'm upset, I don't talk. Mm-hmm. Because if I talk, then you're going to get a different understanding. But yet, a response is needed. Mm-hmm. So, how?
So the perfect thing is basically what you just said, because you understand yourself. You know that in the moment, if you respond, it's not going to be a good outcome. So you say to the individual, listen, give me some time. I'm going to come back to this, but give me some time because I'm not in the place to talk about this right now. So that gives you room to do it. But you can also, in addition to that, you can imagine the scenarios. Like, if I act this way, like, process that. If I act this way, what is the outcome? If I act another way, what is the outcome? And then choose which one is most appropriate for you, given your need. But I find that oftentimes in the mind believes that things are going by quickly, and they're not as quickly as we're imagining it. So if we tell individuals, because if we're working on character, building character and empathy and having like good work environment, then the onus is on us to say, give me some time. I'll come back to that, because that way we can get the emotions down.
1 second. All right, let me answer your question first, or add to that. So I find that sometimes when you're angry, yes, you have to get the emotion out, but taking it out of the person may not yield the result that you want. In order, me want you to understand what me I say, but if I'm angry, I'm not going to get it out. What I find is documenting it, writing it, so you can write down, even if it's just in point format, just open your phone or whatever, and just write it down. Say, look here, I'm angry because you didn't listen, such and such. Like, write like you talk to the person. And I find that by the time you calm down, you can say it to the person in a more delicate manner and perhaps persuade them. Now, kind of segueing into the question I wanted to ask.
One thing, don't forget your question. If you're writing it down or writing an email, please don't hit the send button. In as much as you're tempted to, or a text, in as much as you're tempted to, if you're emotionally charged, do not hit that send button. So wait a little and then go back to it and then decide whether or not, when you're calm, then decide whether or not that's something you want to convey.
How I deal with things, I don't talk, so I don't write and I don't talk. No oral, no written. Because it will come out. If I send the email, it will come out.
No, I never say write it on our email. We say just write it down. So
Yeah.
document it. So if it is just a notepad, a paper, just document how you're feeling so you don't lose a thought. But it's like, think about it like doing an essay. When you're doing that brainstorming process where you just write down everything and then you start to, yes, I was saying, think of it as a brainstorming process when you're writing an essay. So you just write down all of the emotions, put everything right there. So, and then you come back to refining it before you go and actually speak to the person. So it's like almost like you're making bullet notes and just saying, okay, this morning, this is what I was upset about. And just ask the person to allow you to speak from your perspective. And also I find that a good way to particularly to, just to kind of round things or to get the result is to make suggestions. And sometimes in some things you can say, you know what, I'm sorry for this. However, this is what I would like. And moving forward, you can start the motion by pushing that way. With that said though, how do you, this is my question, going back to my question, sorry, don't lose your thought. Okay, still want to hear your words. There are some people whom, even though you are having a certain conversation with them, because they're not at the space of understanding and recognizing boundaries, and they themselves need to go to the mental work and the emotional work, when you start to put up something, they then become charged and sometimes become vindictive. And it becomes even worse when it's a workplace and they're in maybe a position of authority. Mm-hmm. How do you not sacrifice your emotional space just to try to, I don't want to say really appease the person, but for lack of a better word, for make it a good working environment then. I don't want to offend you. So, me not throw no words, but you may have a situation where you're dealing with somebody who their work day is so packed with maybe meetings or whatever it is that they're doing. And when they have the time, or maybe it's just the type of person that when them have a thought, them have to deal with it now. And so them are going to call you at the 9 o'clock and have the conversation, even though you're saying, I'm a little busy now, can we deal with this tomorrow? Or this is outside of the work time, and so I am trying to do something personal. And they're like, okay, I understand that, but here, what I was thinking is, and they move on. How do you deal with that? Because I feel like sometimes for those persons, unless you are firm and say, hold on, hear what I say, I'm a personal time now. No disrespect to you, and during the work, I understand, say outside of the work hours we'll do certain things, but now it's family time and I'm gonna do this family time. So big up yourself, we're gonna have this conversation tomorrow. Goodbye. You have to sometimes be firm, but again, the fear is you're dealing with somebody who is in that position and may become vindictive because they don't like how you are dealing with it. So how you do it.
But that's the thing, is that remember, we're not responsible for other people's reaction, and it's going to be an uncomfortable exchange between the person who is reacting with the discomfort and them respecting your boundaries. But if you think about it, sorry, I lost my train of thought. If it's a case that you're not emotionally charged and you indicate to this individual that, okay, I create my family life and my home space for this time, let's talk tomorrow. I know you have a lot to say, but let's talk tomorrow. And you can hang up and you can say to them, I'm gonna go now, in a calm tone, or calm and firm tone. But I'm saying not to be disrespectful in being calm and assertive, or being assertive in your tone. The other thing, you had said something about, the other thing is also the sandwich approach, because there are times when we acknowledge for other individuals what they're going through. So I imagine that you've had a lot on your plate and you're working through, this is you talking to boss or whoever this person is. You have a lot on your plate and you've been doing a lot of work, and maybe now is the time that you've gotten the space. But at this moment in time, I'm focusing on family, and I can guarantee you that tomorrow during work hours, we're gonna address this. So that way they can also check in to see, okay, yeah, I've been doing that, right? Okay. And they can allow you to have your family time. The other thing that I would say in terms of keeping things on the inside for, I'm guessing maybe an introvert, maybe. Just because you keep things on the inside doesn't mean that you don't need to acknowledge it for yourself. So acknowledging it is important because you have to take care of yourself. And you don't want to store these emotions, because then you get so heavy and it's hard for you to have space to do anything else. It's gonna be anger and resentment. So take some time out on a daily basis, maybe at the end of the day, to write out a couple of sentences about how you're feeling. Acknowledge that for yourself. You realize that it makes you a lot lighter and feel better because you're taking care of you.
Thank you so much,
You're
ladies
welcome.
and gentlemen. Oh, there is a question online. I know it's time to wrap up because the time is so far gone. But because it's the first one that we have had online, I'm going to just accommodate it. Please, what is the best way to deal with stress? What is the best way to deal with stress? What do you recommend?
All right, so first, to acknowledge that you're feeling stress. Then second, to look at how it is that you're organizing your days. So whether or not you're taking time out for yourself, and create a space for yourself where it's just about you and not you showing up for other people. And if you practice that on a daily basis, in addition to exercise and eating properly, etc., if you practice that on a daily basis, having your own little space, that can help with managing stress.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
At this time, we'll have the vote of thanks by Ms. Shanique Gray, and then I'll do the closing remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the MONA Administrative Officers Committee, I would like to extend to all administrators assembled here today and those administrators that have joined us online a hearty thank you for attending this seminar. To the members of the campus's executive management team, I thank you for your support and attendance and for bringing greetings and messages of appreciation. They were well received and very much appreciated. To our guest speaker, Dr. Caryl James Bateman, who spared time from her busy schedule to join us for this occasion, I thank you for bringing your inspiring and enlightening message, reinvigorating all of us on the path to being mentally rooted and ready to rise. Your message on such points as managing our emotions, conducting self-assessments for our personal growth, and accepting strokes will surely encourage us all in our future events and interactions. So once again, thank you all for joining us today, and best wishes for a happy Administrative Professionals Day. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Shanique. All right, but before we go, we do have more gifts on the table. And so Miss Asnat Sharp is going to be helping us to give away all of these things because we're not taking back anything with us. All right? So listen keenly and participate so you can take these prizes with you because we're not taking them back.
All right. Afternoon, everyone. I'll be quick because I know you've been very interactive so far. So I'll start off with an easy one. Can anyone tell me when the National Secretaries Association was founded and where? That's correct. No, you look like you were waving. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. All right. The next one is from earlier up in the presentation, so check in your memory. When was the Administrative Professionals Week first named as such? What year? Remember it was Secretaries, National Secretaries Week, and then... So you're disqualified. No. It would have been after 1942 when the organization was first formed. All right, I'll move to another question. It was in... All right, go ahead. But you're not getting anything, though. Yes, that's correct.
Yes, so she was listening.
Yes, it was first named as such in 2000. All right, there were a lot of quotes throughout the presentation. So for our online viewers and for you here, I would like to have one quote. Anyone, anything that Which hand first? Whose hand was first? Marjorie? You're giving her the mic, Peter. She's looking for me.
The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others.
Very good. Who said that?
Gandhi.
Very well. All right. In Dr. Ali's presentation, she had a very nice quote as well. Does anyone remember that one? No? All right. You have it? All right, I'll tell you. She said, no one can whistle a symphony. So the other part B to that prize, why? What's the explanation behind this? Give her.
Because it takes an orchestra to play a symphony.
Very good. It takes an orchestra to play a symphony. All right, so these questions relate to Dr. Bateman's presentation. What is the greatest agent for change? Is that a hand?
Hi, good morning, or afternoon. Your mind, your brain.
Well, it starts there, but that's not exactly what she said. No. Over here, Pete again. Is there a code for online as yet? No? Looks like online doesn't want any prize. So if anybody else here has a code, if there's no online code, by the time I'm through, you can hold the quote. It would be the last one.
Awareness.
Very good. That's the answer. So awareness is the greatest agent for change. We have 2 more prizes left. So in going through Dr. Bateman's presentation, she had some steps to managing emotions. What do you recall her saying as the first step? Hand, we're using the hand, please.
Is that you're saying the asking about the levels, or what the question here? Repeat the question.
What is the first step for managing your emotions?
Oh, I don't identifying them.
And it's two-part.
Miss up the rest.
Whose hand was up next?
The lady in the gray.
Gray?
I think so. All right.
One leave?
Is it the rain effect where you recognize what is happening? That's the one?
So you've answered my second question.
Oh.
So, all right, so what Dr. Bateman wanted you to take away, the acronym RAIN, you can go back to the presentation to remember what the acronym stands for. RAIN, recognize what's happening, allow life to be just as it is, investigate with a gentle, curious attention, and nurture with loving presence. And one more. So to the last part of our presentation, anyone can just give me the, as it relates to boundaries, what was said? Those are the types of boundaries, but what are you supposed to do with maintaining those boundaries? Who is looking? I'm not hearing her.
You set your boundaries. You're not responsible for the feelings of others towards your boundaries that you set.
Not quite what I'm looking for. She was quite specific, so. So I'll come to you. That means you have to have the answer.
No, I mean, I was going to say what she was going to say, but I'll...
Go ahead.
When you set boundaries, or you're setting respectful boundaries, you also have to consider what the boundaries mean to you and what your values are. And also when you're enforcing those boundaries, you must also not take on the feelings of others in maintaining your boundaries. The boundaries are for you, and the boundaries are for your values, but not for others, or for maintaining respectful distance from others. And it's a form of self-care.
Yes, thank you. I see you all understood the point of boundaries. But Dr. Bateman, I don't know which answer you think. Someone else?
I know someone else was trying to.
Those are for the under the seat, so we can tell them to go look for it.
It's access. Think about access, responsibilities, and consequences.
That's what I'm looking for. So the point was there are the types of boundaries, but you need to look at the access persons have to you, the responsibility, and the consequences of the actions. So that's what I was looking for. But I know that you have all learned well her point in terms of maintaining boundaries. We have, so that giveaway should be for her out there. So the last one is just for the person who came in early, the first person who arrived. Sharon. All right, while we get that gift to her, remember what Dr. Bateman's gift to you was? You can all shout out what it was. Strokes. And what are strokes? It's all right. Acts of recognition or sources of stimulation. So let us remember to give ourselves gifts. And our last giveaway, which isn't tied to questions, is that we had placed under the seats within the first 2 to 4 rows little tokens that would have been our icebreaker. So whoever finds it at the end of the session, you could just come up and we'll give that to you.
All right, just to clarify, it's under the tablet of the seat. Under the tablets. All right, just want to acknowledge at this time Dean Adrian Lawrence, the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering. Thank you so much. I saw that you came in long ago, and I hope that you also benefited from the presentation. Thank you for your support. Okay, yes, thank you. So do give him a round of applause. Thank you. All right, so that's the final words from me. I'm going to leave you with a quote. We're full of quotes today, and this is from Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So once again, thank you all for coming. Continue to positively impact the lives of your stakeholders and enjoy the rest of Administrative Professionals Week. Thank you. Oh, right. So we will have refreshments on the outside. We're also asking the persons who are here physically to just join us at the front for a quick group photograph. A quick group photograph, please, and then